You don't make avoidance crave you by begging. You do it by becoming the version of you that's impossible to forget. Let's talk about how to do that. Have you ever noticed that the more you chase someone who's pulling away, the faster they run? It's not because you're not enough, it's because you're trying too hard to prove that you are. That desperation, that fear of losing them, becomes the very energy that confirms their avoidant fears, that closeness means pressure, that love means losing their space. But here's the truth: silence speaks louder than clinginess. When you stop texting first, when you stop explaining yourself over and over, when you stop showing up uninvited in their emotional world, you're not being rude. You're being wise. You're choosing self-respect over fear. And let me tell you something powerful. People feel your absence more deeply when you were once present with love. It's in the silence that avoidants begin to wonder. It's in your stillness that they feel your strength. Avoidants don't fear connection as much as they fear losing themselves in it. So the more you try to rescue the connection, the more they feel they need to escape. But when you pull back, not out of revenge, not out of manipulation, but from a deep place of self-love, everything shifts. Your silence becomes the mirror they never wanted to face. It reflects what they pushed away. It forces them to sit with the discomfort they always avoided, and in that space, something begins to stir in them, longing. But here's the key. Your silence must come from wholeness, not heartbreak. It's not the kind of silence where you're secretly watching your phone, hoping they notice. No. It's the kind of silence that says, I'm no longer shrinking myself for someone who isn't ready to meet me. That kind of quiet is powerful. That kind of energy is attractive. When you are silent from a place of dignity, you allow the avoidant person to experience something rare, the space to feel without being pressured to react. You give them the distance they crave, but in a way that's filled with presence. You're not gone. You're just not chasing anymore. You've returned home to yourself. And I know that's hard. I know it feels like doing nothing. But emotional maturity means knowing when to engage and when to surrender. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to step back and let them feel the weight of losing access to your heart. Let them feel the silence echoing the space where your love used to speak. Because longing doesn't grow in noise. It grows in stillness. And if someone truly values you, your absence will be louder than your presence ever was. So don't be afraid of the quiet. Don't fill the gap with words they don't appreciate. Stand in that sacred silence and trust what's meant for you won't require you to chase it. And when they finally turn back around, they'll know exactly where to find you, not in desperation, but in grace. Confidence isn't about being loud. It's not about flashy posts or trying to prove you've moved on when deep inside you're still hurting. Real confidence is quiet. It's steady. It says, I don't need to convince anyone of my worth. I already know it. And that kind of energy, it's magnetic, especially to someone with an avoidant attachment style. Because while avoidants pull away from pressure and neediness, they're deeply drawn to strength, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that doesn't beg. See, when you're confident, you stop trying to control how someone sees you. You let go of the urge to fix things, to explain yourself, to win their approval. Instead, you embody calm self-trust. You say more in how you carry yourself than in anything you could text them. When you're confident, you don't chase not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself enough not to beg for crumbs. Avoidants have a radar for emotional dependence. The more they feel you need them to feel okay, the more they retreat. But when you radiate a sense of emotional stability, you become safe in an unfamiliar way. You're not trying to hold them down, you're walking beside them, strong in your own direction. And that's what sparks their curiosity. That's what makes them wonder, why aren't they trying so hard anymore? And here's the truth: control is fear in disguise. When you try to force conversations, demand closure, or cling to their attention, you're not being confident, you're trying to avoid rejection. But when you can say, I'll be okay whether they come close or not, that's when your power shines through. You become rare. You become a breath of fresh air in a world full of people trying to convince someone to love them. I don't confuse confidence with arrogance, though. Arrogance says, I don't need anyone. But confidence says, I want connection, but not at the cost of my peace. And that energy creates safety. It creates the space where an avoidant feels like they can come closer, not because you're pulling them, but because your calm presence feels like home. So be confident in your boundaries. Be confident in your silence. Be confident in your decision not to engage in endless cycles of chasing and retreating. And watch how that inner strength, the kind that doesn't flinch when someone pulls away, becomes the very thing that makes them rethink their distance. Confidence doesn't scream, it simply is. And when they feel it in you, they'll either rise to meet you or realize they were never ready. Either way, you win, because confidence is choosing you every single time. Emotional independence is not about building walls. It's about building a strong foundation within yourself, a place where peace lives, where self-worth is not up for negotiation, and where love is a gift you give, not a tool to fill your emptiness. And when you live from that place, you become magnetic. You see, people with avoidant attachment aren't repelled by love. They're repelled by emotional dependency. They fear being consumed, overwhelmed, or responsible for someone else's happiness. So when you show up with emotional independence, when you are full before you even meet them, it disarms their defenses, it confuses the pattern they're used to, and slowly it starts to draw them in. You don't need to tell them you're strong. You don't need to announce that you're doing great. You live it. You breathe it. It's in how you carry yourself. It's in the calm tone of your voice when you say, take your time and mean it. It's in your willingness to walk away if your values aren't honored, not out of anger, but out of respect for your own soul. When you're emotionally independent, you stop looking for someone to fix your loneliness. You make peace with solitude. You start enjoying your mornings without checking your phone first. You go for walks, pursue your goals, and create a life rich with purpose, that no one becomes your only source of joy. And that's the version of you they can't stop thinking about, the one who is already whole. The truth is, people crave what they can't control. When you're emotionally dependent, you're predictable. You'll always text back, always wait, always forgive without growth. But when you are rooted in yourself, when you stop seeking reassurance from someone who doesn't know how to give it, they begin to wonder, what changed? And what changed is you. Emotional independence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but wisely. You give love without losing yourself. You allow closeness without demanding it. You leave the door open, but you don't chase anyone through it. You become emotionally available to yourself first. That's the kind of love that avoidants secretly admire but rarely encounter. Because deep down, avoidants don't want to be alone forever. They want to feel safe, and the safest place they can run to is someone who doesn't fall apart when they create distance. Someone who doesn't guilt them, doesn't beg, doesn't panic, but stays calm, connected, and self-contained. So give them space, not as a tactic, but as a natural overflow of your emotional strength. Focus on becoming someone who doesn't just survive without them, but thrive. That's when they start to miss you. Not because you disappeared, but because your presence no longer depends on their attention. Mystery is not about playing games, it's about not giving yourself away all at once. In a world that overshares, overtexts, and overexplains, there is something powerfully attractive about someone who holds a little back. Especially to someone with an avoidant attachment style, mystery is magnetic. It creates space, it invites curiosity, it makes them lean in. See, avoidants often feel suffocated by too much emotional intensity too soon. When someone lays everything bare, demands constant connection, or puts all their emotions on the table instantly, it triggers a sense of threat, like their freedom is under attack. But when you maintain a sense of inner privacy, not secrecy, but sacredness, you give them a gift they don't even know they crave, the freedom to approach you on their terms, without pressure. Mystery doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being grounded, calm, and selective with your energy. You're still kind, you're still warm, but you're not always available. You're not always posting about how you feel. You're not texting paragraphs, trying to explain who you are. You let them experience you slowly, like a good book, one chapter at a time. And that slowness, that patience, it's irresistible. When you hold a bit of mystery, they begin to wonder where your strength comes from. What brings you peace? Who are you when you're not trying to impress anyone? And instead of running from you, they start inching closer. Because unlike emotional overexposure, which overwhelms them, mystery makes them feel safe. It doesn't demand their attention, it invites it. Avoidants are used to being chased. They're used to people trying to fix, explain, or convince them to stay. So when you're not doing that, when you're calm, centered, and a little unreadable, they notice. They may not say it out loud, but deep down, they're drawn in, not because you're manipulating them, but because you're showing them a rare kind of self-respect, the kind that doesn't need constant validation. And maybe you used to overshare. Maybe you gave too much too fast because you just wanted to be seen. That's okay. But from now on, protect your story. Share it with people who have earned it, not with those who fear intimacy. Let them wonder. Let them work a little to understand your layers. Because here's the truth. When you're mysterious in your energy, not chaotic, just calm and self-contained, They feel something they didn't expect. They feel curiosity. And where there's curiosity, there's the beginning of desire. So don't rush to fill every silence. Don't try to prove you're worth loving. Show up fully, but slowly. Speak less, smile more, and let your peace speak for you. You'll long for what they don't fully understand. And that is how mystery makes the heart wander back. You want to make an avoidant long for you like crazy? Then stop sitting around waiting for their attention and start building a life they want to be part of. A life that's full, rich, meaningful, with or without them. Because nothing is more attractive, more unforgettable than someone who is in motion. Someone who isn't stuck. Avoidants are drawn to strength, but not the loud kind, the lived kind. The kind they see when you're investing in your career, laughing with friends, hitting the gym, creating, learning, serving, growing. When your life is on fire with purpose, you become more than a person. You become a path, a direction, a momentum they start to feel left out of. And that's when longing begins. Because here's the truth. You can't convince anyone to want you by shrinking, waiting. That only reinforces their belief that connection means losing freedom. But when you live fully, when your life radiates joy and purpose that isn't centered around them, it quietly says, I'm not waiting, I'm rising. And in that rising, they feel your absence not as silence, but as movement. You don't need to post fake I'm doing amazing selfies or make them jealous. You just need to mean it. Wake up with intention. Build a routine that nourishes your soul. Spend time with people who see your worth without needing to be chased. Pick up passions you've buried. Go to that class, read that book, start that project, go on that trip, not to prove a point, but because this is your life and no one is worth you pressing pause on it. Because let me tell you something, avoidants may act detached, but they notice everything. They notice when your tone changes, when your energy shifts, when you stop trying so hard. And when they see you pouring your time into yourself instead of trying to earn theirs, it creates a pull inside them. Wait, what are they up to? Why do they seem lighter? Am I missing out? Yes, they are. Because the version of you who knows their worth and lives like it, that's unforgettable. That's the version that lingers in their thoughts when the world goes quiet. That's the version that makes them realize they weren't the center of your universe. They were just invited into it. So don't try to inspire longing by holding back your love. Inspire it by elevating your life. Become so deeply rooted in your joy, in your growth, in your peace, that they don't just miss you, they miss who they were becoming when they were around you. And if they return, they'll return to someone who didn't break when they left. They'll return to someone who kept moving forward. And if they don't, you'll be too busy building something beautiful to notice. There's a kind of love that doesn't need to beg. It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't chase. That love is self-love. And it is the real seduction. When you love yourself deeply, not just in the mirror, but in your choices, everything about you begins to shift. You stop tolerating breadcrumbs. You stop clinging to half-hearted communication. You stop lowering your standards just to feel wanted. Because the love you give yourself becomes so rich, so steady, that you no longer fear losing someone who can't meet you there. Avoidants may fear closeness, but they're also drawn to strength, not the kind that shouts, the kind that glows. And there is nothing more powerful than someone who is anchored in their own value. When you love yourself fiercely, you no longer hand over your worth like a coupon, hoping someone will redeem it. You walk like someone who's already been chosen by you. This kind of love changes the game. You no longer seek attention to feel alive. You are alive. You stop playing emotional tug of war because your peace matters more than their confusion. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not distant. You're disciplined. And that's the energy avoidants don't forget, because they're used to being the strong one, the one who pulls away. But when they meet someone who doesn't chase, someone who stays grounded, someone who knows how to leave with grace, that shakes something in them. You become unforgettable, not because of what you said, but because of how you made them feel when you stopped trying. You become the one who taught them that love doesn't have to mean sacrifice. It can mean alignment, wholeness, safety. And that's the kind of love they'll crave, not the kind that demands, but the kind that invites. And maybe they won't say it, maybe they'll keep running, but trust this. People remember the energy that made them feel seen without pressure, wanted without need, loved without losing themselves. That's what self-love does. It lets them feel your light, but never dims it for them. So fall back in love with yourself, not in theory, but in action. Speak to yourself kindly. Choose people who honor you. Let go of connections that make you beg. Celebrate your growth. Invest in your healing. Walk into every room like you belong, because you do. And let that self-love radiate so boldly that the right people feel safe and the wrong ones feel exposed. In the end, the deepest longing won't come from your looks, your charm, or your silence. It will come from the way you cherished yourself when they couldn't. Because the kind of love that makes someone long for you like crazy is the love you first give to your own soul. When it comes to making someone with an avoidant attachment style long for you, the answer isn't in chasing, pleading, or proving. It's in turning inward. It's in choosing to live from a place of strength, not scarcity. You don't win someone's heart by shrinking yourself. You win by expanding into your fullest, truest self. Every step of this journey isn't about them coming back. It's about you coming back to your dignity, to your center, to your own emotional wholeness. Because the more you return to you, the more magnetic you become to anyone who truly values real connection. Let your silence speak where words once begged. Let your confidence walk where your fear once clung. Let your emotional independence shine where neediness once clouded your vision. The moment you stop chasing someone who's emotionally unavailable and start nourishing your own spirit, something incredible happens. Your absence becomes felt deeply. Because you were never just another person to them, you were safety, softness, and strength all at once. And when that energy no longer shows up at their doorstep, a void forms, one they can't ignore. Not because you tried to be unforgettable, but because you chose to be unshakable. Don't underestimate the power of mystery. In a world addicted to instant access and emotional oversharing, mystery stands out. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being so whole within yourself that not everything about you is on display. Give yourself slowly, mindfully, and only to those who show they're ready to hold it with care. That sense of restraint, not from fear, but from fullness, draws avoidance in. It makes them lean forward. It makes them curious again. Because nothing is more compelling than a story you haven't finished reading, a soul you haven't completely unlocked. Build a life that doesn't revolve around waiting, the life that doesn't happen. So don't dive off the cliff. Don't just read the news, stare at the fire that build a life that moves, that heals, that stretches far beyond one person's inability to connect. When you commit to growth, joy, and inner peace, you don't just get over someone. You rise so high that they have no choice but to look up. And maybe they'll follow. Maybe they won't. But either way, you'll be too busy building something extraordinary to beg for love that wasn't ready for your depth. Because longing isn't inspired by desperation, it's inspired by distance wrapped in purpose. So as you walk forward from here, remember, the greatest way to make someone long for you is to stop needing them to. Fill the spaces they left behind with strength, with joy, with soul. And when they look for the version of you who used to wait, they'll find someone who grew wings instead. Someone who didn't just survive the distance, they turned it into destiny. And that version of you, that's the one they'll never forget. Thank you for walking with me through this message, not just with your ears, but with your heart. If you've made it this far, it means you're not just hoping for love. You're choosing to become the kind of person who attracts it effortlessly, not through chasing, but through growth, grace, and grounded strength. That's powerful. That's rare. As you move forward, remember, your worth isn't measured by who stays or who leaves. It's measured by how deeply you choose to love yourself when others can't. You have everything inside you to create peace, purpose, and connection, not just with others, but within your own soul. So take this message not as an ending, but as a beginning, a reminder of what you deserve and who you're becoming. Keep rising, keep choosing yourself, keep walking the path of quiet confidence. Thank you for your time, your presence, and your willingness to grow. Until next time, take care of your heart, and goodbye for now.